that is beneath you. So here's Dr. Debbie Green to give us more insight and wisdom as we prepare for those relationships that are less than what we deserve. And if you're in fear, that's definitely not love. That's
Absolutely, absolutely. Good morning, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Wonderful day here in Atlanta. A little overcast, but guess what? It's all good. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much. Yes, this is a very interesting topic because a lot of people deal with insecurities. And some people like, oh, it's not me. I'm not insecure. It's someone else.
mm,
It's always someone else and not you. Well, let's examine that a little bit. Let's examine that. What does it feel like to live in a fear-based relationship? What kind of signs, that pop up? Why do people feel that they have to overcompensate for somebody else to be happy?
yes.
Because they may be feeling that they've lost this person or feel that they have to walk on eggshells or whatever to, compensate. That's why I say overcompensate, or they may feel this person's leaving them, or you may have trust issues. Okay. If
Yes.
you have trust issues, guess what? You have a fear based thinking. You
Yes.
know, Something happened in your life. It was maybe a failed relationship, or perhaps you grew up in a household that you was not able to establish trust, and so now it's in your adult years. So I'm not calling anything out. I'm just examining, and I want to help you where you are, because it's a very uncomfortable thing to live in fear of any magnitude. And it takes away our joy, our peace, our excitement of life. We always have to be looking around the corner, around the bend, in the future. I'm wondering if this person is going to leave me like the last person, or I'm not going to fall in love with anyone ever again. I don't want to be in any relationships because I don't want to be hurt, because I was hurt so bad last time.
Mm.
So now it takes away from your essence of your life. And I think we are naive. I think we just get too close. We get too close too soon. Sometimes that happens, you
Yes, you can
know.
start getting possessive of someone you don't possess, and that's the thing about fear-based relationships. You're trying to hold on to someone. I have seen people do things with someone that they don't really know that well. You're giving them your car, you're giving them a lot of money, you're buying them things, trying to buy them. And then when you find out they've left you for someone else, or sometimes they're with someone else, then you're angry and you feel like, oh, they cheated on me. No, first of all, was the relationship defined as exclusive? Number one. And number two, if it wasn't, did
Right.
you think that your money was going to purchase their loyalty and their exclusivity? And number three, were you always fearing that if you didn't do over and above what should be done at that stage in the relationship, then they would leave you? That's that fear-based relationship. And I've seen people make those mistakes over and over again, trying to
Yes.
hold someone. And you probably have seen the roots of this, perhaps being in abandonment as a child. If maybe your father left you, your mother left you, you have fear-based, you have a fear at the very core of your being that one you love is going to leave you. And so that becomes what shapes how you handle relationships for the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And so it causes you to look at relationships and people that because it's so many different sides to a fear-based relationship. So let's examine one at a time. The one where people love bomb. Okay.
Mm.
Love bombing is like as soon as that person meets you, they just want to do over and above everything for you immediately.
Mhm.
They literally come in buying you things, exclusive gifts, and immediately. I'm not talking about like in a week or two. I'm talking about the very first day. The
Mm.
very first day.
Hardly even know them. and all.
Yeah, I mean, and most women or even men think, oh, wow, this is so cool. You know, you took me shopping on the first day and spent 500 plus dollars on me. And you know what I'm saying? You giving me everything. Oh, I don't find me a winner. Okay.
Mhm.
And then a little while in the relationship, you find out that that person may, start demanding things of you.
Yes.
Like, hey, I don't like the way you dress. You need to
Mm,
change that. You're on the phone too much. You need to change that. You're
mm.
visiting your family too much. You need to change that. Why it taking you so long to come from work? You need to change that. So these little tiny little signs of
Control.
people like this, and you say, well, wait a minute, I thought that's just somebody who cares about me and wants my full undivided attention.
No,
No, not exactly.
they want
Remember, this is
control.
not your husband. This is not your wife. This is someone who's coming into your life that's telling you they want to change you
Yes.
immediately. And because you were love bombed, you thought you had a winner. Guess what you just did? If you're not careful, you'll just start changing and molding into this person that you're not. Because this person is insecure. These are signs of insecurity. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that it's all situations are like that. I mean, there are some nice people in the world, okay, but then there's also a lot of insecure people in the world in relationships. And you won't know until it's totally dysfunctional, until you get deep down in it. And then you see this person start becoming obsessive. Who you with? Where you going? Why it's taking you so long to come back home? Then they even may go as far as following you. They may stalk you. And now you think, oh my God, you're trying to ghost them. And they're right behind you, following you on Facebook.
Well,
you know,
it
it's serious though, because see, this
is
is how
serious.
people, if
That's
you're
how it
dealing with a person with extreme insecurities, they become hostile.
yes, yes.
That's what I'm saying. And
Well,
that's scary.
and I think when people don't know what real love feels like, in the beginning,
Yes.
it feels like for someone who doesn't know that love is balanced and love allows you your freedom and your space to be who you are. But I've had a number of friends who've been in those kind of relationships, and oh, this person is just wonderful. In the beginning, like you say, oh, he bought me this, he bought me that. Beware of somebody who's spending a lot of money on you and you don't really know them that well. There's a price that comes with that. I mean,
Yes, it is.
I think there's no strings attached. Believe me, there's some heavy strings attached because
Yes.
as far as they're concerned, they bought you. They bought your loyalty. They bought your exclusive intimacy. They bought you. And so that jealousy that they display, they feel like they have a right to that. I mean, you
Uh-huh.
allow them to take you shopping and buy you those expensive shoes, and you allow them to take you to that expensive restaurant. You allow them to pay your
Hmm.
car note. You allow them to pay your rent. You allow them to pay off a debt. You allow them to do things that a spouse would do, and they were not your spouse, and you figure they're trying to win you, and they feel like they bought you. So
Right.
and that's their way of securing someone, because as you said, fear based. So when it's based on fear of loss, that's when it becomes obsessive. And for a person who doesn't know, oh, he loves me, and I've seen it reversed. Women who buy and
Yeah.
they bought, oh, I gave you my car, what are you doing calling this other woman? Well,
Right.
we don't know that, but you gave this to me. Oh, okay, she likes me. That's good. I'll drive her car. I mean, when you have people who do things to own someone because they're afraid they're going to lose someone, that's what
Hmm.
creates that kind of imbalance. And someone can think, oh, hey, I hit pay dirt. I got this person. He bought me this. He bought me that. She bought me this. She bought me that. Were you for sale? You
Yes.
really want to be bought, because if you try to pull away, there's a price to pay. And they become obsessive and jealous and demanding. And next thing you know, you can't get rid of them. And
Mm,
you realize you didn't really like them that much. But now you're
yeah.
kind of stuck and obligated because you accepted the expensive gifts.
And this is how you know that you're dealing with a person like that. You will hear these type of words. All I did for you,
Ah, after
all I did for you, I did this, I did that, I bought this, and this is how this is how you treat me.
mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And this is the things that they'll come out and say again early on in the game.
Yes.
Because see, and I say early on, I'm talking about within the first trimesters of the relationship, within 3 months, within 3 months. And you if you are timid and if you are passive, you're gonna get hung up. You're gonna
Mhm.
get entangled.
Oh yeah.
You will get entangled really, really quickly. And then
Mhm.
if you are also, a fear-based thinking person, which is the opposite side of this, that means I have to satisfy you. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not strong enough to confront you in because you're telling me what you want me to do and how you want me to do it, and I'm just allowing this. Oh, then with your friends or your family, oh no, he takes care of me. He pays my bills. He's
Yeah.
there for me. No, he bought you.
He bought you. He bought you.
And
Yeah.
he feels that you are his property, and vice versa. She feels that you are his property. Now
Mhm.
think about this. If you a healthy relationship, it comes in with independence.
Yes.
Independence, right? You're independent and so am I. Now if we take each other out. Okay, which means that okay, next one day when I meet you, I pay for the bill. Next day you meet me, I may pay for the bill. This
Mm.
way it keeps things even keel until we decide to get into a little more, serious relationship, right? And even after the serious relationship, it should always still compensate. Now, if you know healthy relationships, this is how they do it. They help each other. It's not always you give me, me. I give you, you. It's balanced. It's a
About.
balanced relationship. That means that balanced relationship would not lead to a fear-based relationship of obsession, what I'm saying, of what they call codependency, leading to areas of, oh, you hurt me, I got to destroy you in some kind of
Mm.
way. If I can't have you, nobody will. Okay, starting early on, those are signs. Those are signs when someone tries to change your world, change who you are immediately. Those are signs of somebody not just caring for you or love you. No, they're molding you to be something that you're not for
Yeah.
them. You
Yes.
got people like that. They're called keepers, right?
Mm. Mm.
Keepers are people who actually, and they're men and women. They actually they actually go out looking for relationships where they can dominate other people and
Ooh.
take their money,
Ooh.
take their time, just
Mm.
dominate. That's all they're used to. And there's a very underlining factor here also. It's called narcissism. So
Mm.
narcissism is of course a person that gaslights.
Mm.
Gaslighting, if you never heard that, is it comes from a term of a behavior in actions and verbal assent, where someone would tell you everything you want to hear, but always tell you that they didn't say it in some
Yes.
type of way and deny it.
Yeah. They dismiss what you're feeling when you try to bring up a concern. They make you feel
Yeah,
like it's all in your mind.
right.
And of course, it comes from a movie where this man was actually
Uh-huh.
uh, he was doing things to a woman, and she was feeling uncomfortable when she brought it up. He would dismiss her, make her. He was trying to make her think she was crazy, and so when someone tries to make you feel like your feelings are not
That's just
legitimate.
one of the areas. All right. Okay. Yes. And that's one of the areas that constantly where people, they're not sure about that, you know what I'm saying? Which is like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I misunderstood it. So
Yeah.
they go. And then once they get there, once they hook them, they can say, okay, if I got past the first one, I'm sure I'm gonna do this again. And they'll wait and they'll do a hook and trade again, a hook and trade again before
Mhm.
they realize it. You got this person thinking something totally different than what you originally planned for them. Now
Yes.
they're caught up in a relationship and don't fall in love with that person. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
Mhm.
They're going to drag you. I'm so sorry to tell you that. They're going to really drag you emotionally.
Yes.
Emotionally, you will feel insignificant. You will feel like just a piece of furniture sitting in their house if you're living
Ooh.
together. Uh,
Ooh.
you will feel invisible
So,
because your needs will
mm,
not be met. Like far as your emotional and mental needs, oh no, those will get ignored.
mm.
Somebody's out there going through this. I'm
Somebody,
telling you,
I know some people are going through it, and if
and
you've
I
never
hate
been in a
that.
healthy relationship, you don't really know what that feels like. Love doesn't hurt. Love doesn't feel bad. Love doesn't make you depressed. But if you've
Mm,
never experienced a healthy relationship, you don't know what that feels like. So you accept a person who is with you so you can have a person with you and you think that's a relationship. And I know
yeah,
so many people, they think being with someone and having sex periodically, that's a relationship. But nothing else emotionally that they need is being fulfilled. And they're accepting the fact that they feel the stress of not having anything but periodic sex with somebody who is in their midst sometimes, but there's no
that's it.
sharing
There's no
of
essence.
feelings. There's a whole lot missing. But if you've never had it, then you don't know what you're missing. You just know something's missing and you accept it.
Right, right. And I just want to let everyone know healthy relationships are balance. It's balance in love, it's balance in unconditional expectations of the other. It doesn't come with, a variety of demands or commands or demands. No, I respect you, you respect me. We live a life of integrity.
Yeah.
Will I agree with you in every essence, every situation? No, I won't. And we should be able to mutually sit down and understand and work out our conflicts if we
Yes.
have a conflict. But it's not just a one-sided thing.
But if
Meet
you're
me halfway.
yes.
I call it the half a loaf approach. you know, meet me
Yeah,
halfway. Just meet
halfway.
me halfway. That's all I'm asking. You
Well,
meet me halfway and we can sit down and we can discuss what makes us happy. Not
yeah.
just you or me, but what makes us happy. You see what I'm
Well, that's
saying? And
the
it's,
thing.
and it's not. That's the thing. Happiness is one of those things in relationship that's some people feel is difficult to have.
Well, again, if you are fearful yourself of losing someone, you compromise a lot of who you are just to hold on to someone and say I'm in a relationship. But what does it mean if you're always fearful that they're going to leave you, if they're displeased with you? That means that they don't really accept you. So you're always trying to mold yourself to fit whatever they tell you to do because you feel like you might lose this person. And if you are feeling lucky, I got this. Oh, they bought me this, they bought me that, they do this, they buy this, they pay that. If you're feeling like you can't displease them because now you might lose this great person that is financing you, then again, you don't know what a relationship feels like. And if
Right.
if, if you're willing to accept that just because of the financial benefits, then that's where you'll be.
And this is just in a heterosexual or any type of one-on-one interpersonal relationship. But I must also let you know that these type of fear-based thinkings also invade family members as well. Okay. And
Mhm.
also work related things like your supervisor. You may be living up to expectations of your supervisor due to the point that you don't, you fearful for losing your job. So
Yeah.
sometimes you go far and beyond, what I'm saying, of doing and compensating with things when you may be being badgered or being bullied or something of that nature. Okay. These are the situations right here.
Mhm.
Even in relationships with your children, feeling fearful that one of your children may not love you, so you go far and beyond,
Oh, I've seen
not
that.
just buying things, but just taking, verbal assaults,
Seen that a lot.
or emotional hits, because they're telling you you're not this and you're not that because of their insecurities.
Well, you know where I've seen that happen a lot with children when perhaps there's a divorce and somebody feels
Yes,
guilty because of the divorce, they feel inadequate, and the children kind of play on that and
yes,
make them feel obligated. And so, you know, you have children that are demanding things above and beyond the responsibility of the parent, but because that parent is feeling guilty that the marriage ended and maybe they're feeling responsible or whatever the case may be, and this child is making them feel inadequate as a person, as a parent, as a human being. If you can't buy me this, you can't pay that. I mean, I've seen this happen often
yeah,
where
hmm,
the guilt factor is used to keep someone paying for something, maybe even long after that child has grown into adulthood and they're still playing on your guilt from a divorce. It happens all the time. And then even you mentioned the workplace situation. I had a friend who worked for a very prestigious person, person who was famous, and they were happy to get that job. They felt lucky to get that job. And it's just like you described, their employer was so abusive. But because they felt lucky to have this job with this famous person, they took the abuse and they took it and
hmm,
they took it and they took it year after year after year. And then when they were finally let go, they were devastated and they realized they didn't have any loyalty to me. Why did I take all
right,
the abuse? So you have to ask yourself, how do you feel about yourself when you allow someone to abuse you and you're believing that you're lucky to have them, and so you take the abuse? We have to look at where in our lives have we been conditioned to accept abuse. And I believe that early on in life, you get conditioned based on how the people who raised you treated you in terms of what you expect in love or what you fear about not getting love or
right,
what you do to obtain love, that possessive person. Because it's almost like the person who's extremely possessive and uses their money or their power to control somebody is the flip side of the fear-based person who takes that abuse because they're afraid they're going to lose somebody. So both people energetically are matching the fear of losing someone.
hmm,
And that's why they probably find each other a lot.
yeah. A lot of times, insecure people attract insecure people.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and most time their relationships are very dysfunctional. You see
Yes.
what I'm saying? And they, because they're so used to it, they think it's normal. It's
Yes.
normal. It's normal for me to, because I don't know anything else, because that's the only kind of person I've ever been with. So I figured this is my relationship. But that's not, because how can someone recognize a healthy person or a healthy relationship if they're not healthy within themselves?
Right.
So, and again, this is not something that cannot be repaired, people. It can very much be repaired. It can very much be healed. A lot of times when people go into relationships, they're not always healed. They rush out of one relationship and go into another relationship without giving themselves time to heal
Yeah.
within themselves. And so what happens is that relationship that they had prior, if it's dysfunctional, they're going to go into another relationship with the same mindset of this person may hurt me, this person may do this to me, even though they don't tell that person that.
Hmm.
But they, and then they want, and then they want to, hold them there. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to be with me, but then I don't want to totally commit to you, but I still want you to be with me.
Yes. Yes.
So what's going on with that picture when it comes to fear-based thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's a deep
Okay,
one. We gotta take a
again,
break. Uh,
that person is not healed. I want you to be with me.
but I
Okay,
won't
that
totally
person
commit.
is not healed. So we're going to go into a little more of that and examine that. What does that look like when we come back from break? Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. Stick and stay. Don't stray away. And if you're on our switchboard now and you have a comment about this topic, press one. If you've had experience coming out of a relationship like this, press one or call in 515-605-9325 and press one. And we'll open your mic and hear your wisdom. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Viata, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health. I'm also blogging every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's Soul Purpose Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom. Join me every Friday morning at 8 a.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for a time of unity, enlightenment, and love vibration. Shalom.
Hi, this is John Alexander. And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV. YouTube it. See you soon. There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on Cable TV Channel 19 in Chicago and other cities. Check your local cable listings. Everything you need, what your body needs, is found in nature. So Susan Essentials doesn't do it any other way. Susan Essentials provides your employees and individuals access to over 20,000 nutritional products, and they are shipped direct to your door. Because Susan Essentials is certified in plant-based healing, we're permitted to offer you the best nutritional supplements on the planet. They're non-GMO and sustainably produced, and we take the guesswork out for you. Let Susan Essentials help you take control of your health today.
Oh man, God sent the monthly sun bill today. This sunlight is really expensive, especially during this season. I'll probably have to work overtime to pay it.
Well, you better pay it on time. We don't want the sun to go out and we're sitting up here all day in the dark.
Wouldn't it be terrible if God charged us for sunlight? Well, thank God, the light and heat from the sun is free. So why are we paying such high bills for the energy we use in our homes? Because we don't know how to use solar energy, the free energy from the sun. You can convert your regular home to a solar energy home and save tremendously on your electric bill. Take a look at your electric bill. Wouldn't you like to reduce or possibly even eliminate that cost altogether? Let one of our solar consultants show you how. Call today, 312-849-3456, and schedule a free consultation. That's 312-849-3456.
All right, all right. Welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and it's wonderful having you on our show today with my wonderful co-host Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. And if you're just joining us, we are actually talking about, a fear-based relationship. Are you living in fear? Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel you have to overcompensate just to be in your relationships, whether it's your family, your workplace, or just your spouse or significant other? So we just want to help you with that, because sometimes it's very uncomfortable to live in a relationship of fear where you're not sure if this person cares enough about you, or you're not, feeling very at ease. Like, I have to go and do all of these things and be this person that I'm not, just to make this person happy. So you lose yourself in yourself, as I said. It's not a very comfortable thing to do so, to feel intimidated in a relationship, or feel emotionally manipulated or anything of that nature. Because again, this is how people do sometimes. They want things the way they want it, and they want to change a person so they can receive that. And if that person is naive, passive aggressive, or passive, they're going to kind of fall in that trap right there. They're going to fall in that trap, and before they realize that, they have had time and time and time passes on, thinking that something's going to change, and then they're in a relationship that they don't feel loved, they don't feel worthy, they don't feel valued,
Yes.
and it becomes a very difficult place to be. So before all that happens, though, what are the signs of a person that's insecure? What type of signs, what kind of actions, behaviors, words that person would say, or they would, do, in behavior? Well,
Mhm.
one of those things are they never feel satisfied.
Always
It's
complaining.
hard to satisfy a person that's insecure. I'm sorry,
So
what you said, Amy?
a sign of that is that they're always complaining.
Yeah,
Always, like whatever you do, it's the wrong thing. Whatever you say, it's the
never
wrong.
enough.
Yeah. Mm.
Never enough. And that person that's trying to satisfy them knows it.
That's why
They
they end up
know.
compensating, trying to overcompensate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And even when they're hurting, they don't say anything.
Mm.
They suppress that feeling. Oh, what's the use? They're not going to pay attention to me anyway, so they
Yeah.
don't say
Or they
anything.
might leave me. Hmm.
Yeah, and they find themselves in that relationship for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Long periods of time.
What does that do to a person's self-esteem over a long period of time? If you've been taking someone constantly criticizing you, neglecting your feelings, um, making you feel like, well, you're lucky to have me, and so and maybe inside yourself you feel like that as well. But and you keep swallowing your own pain. What happens to one's self-esteem over a long period of time of being in that kind of relationship?
It deteriorates. It just deteriorates, really. Um, it deteriorates so much to it's, they start to feel, they go through this thing called learned helplessness,
Mm.
and that behavior starts to lead them into areas of oppression,
Mm.
suppressing, leading to depression if they're not careful. Yeah, it gets really deep down in that rabbit hole, as one would say, because again, they don't feel adequate because this is a person that they love that always seems to not feel that they're living up to their expectations.
Mm.
So they start thinking, oh, it's me. I'm
Yes.
the problem. And they feel guilty. They start getting angry at themselves. They start overcompensating with, uh, you know, explanations. Oh, he loves me, even though he talks to me and he doesn't, tell me, good words.
Mm.
Oh, it's me. That's the reason why. It's me. It's not him or her. It's me. I'm the problem. And
Mm.
really, that's not it. It's just that you're in an insecure relationship with a person that feels they have to dominate you, to control you.
Right. Right. So
And it's not a relationship of love. Let's just get it out the way. It's not.
it's
It's not a
convenient,
relationship of love.
maybe feeding an ego, but not necessarily a balanced relationship. But like you say, you're meeting each other halfway, but it's not that when.
And they may want something from you. It may be something that you have. It could be money. It could be, some people compensate to stay in a relationship for money, and some people control others to get money in a relationship as well. So it could go either way, you know,
Which
until they realize that both of them are empty.
mm, what shapes a person to become that kind of a manipulator, I guess you would say, where they control others through, I guess, uh, making them feel inadequate, gaslighting, dismissing another's feelings or playing on their insecurities. What creates that kind of a personality? Is that someone who has been treated like that, maybe in childhood, maybe constantly verbally abused as a child, made to feel inadequate themselves? Is that possible, that that's what created that kind of a character who then goes on to do that kind of abusive treatment to someone else?
Well, usually is a person that again grew up in a household where they may have seen the mother or father treat each other like that, or they may not have the emotional availability of that person to teach them or to show them in actions and behavior what it is to exemplify true love. True love is unconditional. I love you just for who you are. You know what I'm saying? I love
Mm,
you because I want your well-being. So if a person never loved you or showed you love from that platform, what happens is your sense of love or your understanding of love gets distorted. So
yeah.
you think you got to take your love or overpower someone to get your love or something of that nature, but it's not love at all. It
Mm,
goes into a control mechanism.
yes, an emotion.
Instead of allowing it naturally,
Yeah.
you feel you have to be boisterous with it, or be bold, bullified, as I call it,
Qualified.
bullified. Oh, I'm the man, or whatever,
Hmm.
and you the woman, and you're supposed to do what I
Do what I
say.
say, yes. Well, I have seen a number of relationships where this is how people were taught to treat others. And it's very common where men are taught that women are not to have any uh, expressions
Freedom.
of, yeah, any freedom. Yeah, you're not free to express your opinions. You're not free to differ in your opinions from me. Uh, you're not free to make decisions that I disagree with. You need to submit to me. I mean, I've seen a number of relationships where this is what was considered normal in a relationship, because this is perhaps what they saw growing up, like you just said. They
Yeah.
saw that in their parents. They saw the dysfunction being normalized. And so that's the role that they took on. And if you have enough people in an environment and a culture where everybody's agreeing to be treated badly, then that becomes the norm. And it becomes difficult to break out of that norm if your spirit as a being will not allow you to accept abuse. It could be very difficult for you to function in a culture where everyone has agreed to accept abuse.
Right, right, exactly. And so it becomes a norm,
Yes.
becomes a norm. And again, these things, they lead to dysfunctional mental capabilities. And it's a long road, but at the same token, that the long road can be disastrous,
Mhm.
because people are, after a period of time, when they really wake up and realize they've been living a life of a person that truly doesn't love them, and they've been in it for long, long periods of time, they're either going to do one or two things. They either deteriorate within themselves inside eternally, or it comes out and
Now,
they want to hurt others.
this is another thing that I've seen in terms of maybe a trend. Women who have stayed in that relationship, kind of relationship, a long time, in midlife, maybe like in their 50s, they start to develop a lot of internal issues, things like cervical cancer, breast cancer,
Yeah.
um, kidney problems. I mean, I'm seeing,
The chronic illnesses.
yes, like the repressed anger. And I know Viata has done some shows about the specific illnesses that come from
Mhm.
specific emotions, which, you know, when we look at the trends, repressed anger often manifests as cancer in the body. And if it has to do
Absolutely.
with your sense of womanhood, it will manifest as cancer in your female parts. So
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of relationships where that kind of swallowing of anger happens, and then seeing the person at a very young age start to develop internal problems, organs developing cancer or failing, and when I begin to study, the connection between your physical ailments and your emotional state, I saw specific patterns in women who were in those kind of relationships where they were constantly repressing anger because they had been conditioned to believe that this is what you must do. And
Right.
specifically in those kind of relationships where maybe they had become financially dependent on someone. And so they felt like they had to comply in order to not get put out the house or not get divorced, because there was no support for them if they chose to stand up for themselves.
Right.
So they just internalized the hurt until their bodies begin to
Hmm.
express that hurt that they were keeping inside.
Exactly. And that's because of the chemicals. The chemicals of the brain, also the chemicals from the heart, play a lot of a role into the central nervous system. When the central nervous system is under fire, that's it literally releases this thing. It's called adrenaline. Adrenaline, when released at the inappropriate times, when there's not a fight or flight situation that is presently happening, it turns into cortisol. Cortisol then turns into what they call stress radicals. Stress radicals then it's very toxic to the body, and it causes cells to break down, healthy cells to turn into unhealthy cells, and it literally causes embolisms and aneurysms and all types of blockages in the body because it's not supposed to be there. And any doctor will tell you stress kills, it causes damage. So,
Yeah.
what is stress? Stress is those things that we go through that we don't talk through, that we hold inside. Too much of something is not good for you, and it doesn't matter what it is
Right.
because it builds up a stressor. We work too much, we get stressed out. If we, if we are in families that have too much drama, we get stressed out. Trying to reach goals so effortlessly. I mean, when we put too much effort in it, we get stressed out. So the human body can't stand pressure. It just falls apart.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so this type of situation that we're speaking about now brings on a lot of stress in the heart cavity, because when you love something that doesn't love you back and you're still trying to find a way to get this person to love you, and no matter what you do it seems like it's never enough.
Mhm.
You're all it's like you just always feel invisible.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Well,
horrible.
uh, and I know, of course, we're women, so we're looking at it from a woman's point of view. But I know there are also men who go through the same kind.
Yes, I'm talking about both sexes. Yes, it's yes.
And I've seen a trend even in men who maybe are in relationships where they are feeling uh, unappreciated,
Mhm.
fearful. Um, they manifest, same thing: cancer in the body, cancer in the male organs when they may be feeling like they're in an emasculating situation. This is why that whole money dynamic, we have to take a look at what that does to people in relationships. The belief that whoever has the financial dominance in terms of making the most money, we almost have this idea that if a person is the one that has the most money, they have the right to be abusive to the person who doesn't have the money. And
Mm.
that's not a balanced partnership. A partnership is, what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, it's yours, mine, ours. So money is not a power tool to determine who can abuse the other. But that's what it has been used for. And so I see that happen a lot in relationships. And sometimes this is why men may feel uncomfortable with a woman who makes more money, because the idea is she has the power of control. Uh, she can throw me out of the house. And I've seen that happen where women will say, well, I'm the one paying the bills, you get out. So when there's a conflict, she becomes the one who then can throw the man out, publicly humiliate him, leave him homeless, all of these things. And this is very painful. And so when we have relationships based on power and control, because the belief is if I have power over you, I can force you to do what I want you to do.
Mhm.
You can't leave me because I have power over you. When our relationships are based on that, those are very unhealthy relationships. And for a long time, that's what relationships have been about. Having power over someone so you can keep them from leaving you. That means
Mhm.
if I have the power to buy you, then you're mine. And if you don't do what I want, I can threaten to throw you out or replace you with someone else. And so the other person who doesn't have the power of the money, that have to comply with whatever verbal abuse, emotional abuse they get. And it makes them feel like nothing, but they have to comply because the other person's the one that has the money. So
Yeah.
this is what I've seen as just the core of our unhealthy relationships, being based on not I love you and I want the best for you and I want
Right.
to thrive, but I want power over you. I want ownership of you. I want you to
Mhm.
have to do what I tell you to do. And I'm going to do it under the threat of if you don't I'm going to get rid of you. So you're always going to be struggling to comply with what I want. That's an unhealthy mindset. But that is what we have created in our relationships. And so even the history of marriage was about, I'm owning someone who
Mm-hmm.
can't leave. And because, in times when men were the dominant ones economically, they were the ones that had the power. And then now we've seen, several role reversal situations where the women might be the one that has the economic power, but then the behavior is the same in terms of whoever has the money has the power to abuse the other, and the other one has to comply because their survival depends on that other person. And either way, I thought the whole women's movement was to create the equality that we talked about, where both sides respected each other. But it doesn't seem like we have achieved that.
Right.
We've switched roles in terms of abuser and abused. So how do we get to that point of mutual respect in a relationship so that it's not based on power and control and fear of loss?
Well, the communication and trust is the most important thing in any relationship. You have to establish trust in order to have loyalty. Because without trust, you can't have loyalty. And so if I got to constantly look around the corner and worry about what you're doing, that's not a relationship. That's insecurity. So I should be able to communicate with you effectively, where we sit down and we talk on a mutual plane that, hey, I feel this way and I want us to work out our differences so that I don't feel the way I feel. And this is the reason why I feel this way. And I need assistance. I need help so that, I can have a healthy relationship with you. You see what I'm saying? Instead of not saying anything, because what happens is when people feel insecurities, they don't say anything. They just act it out.
Yes.
And then you find out later in the game, oh, wow, this person is very obsessive. This person is, because they were insecure at the beginning.
Right. You just
They
did.
were just acting out. Nobody's going to come and tell you, oh, I just want to let you know I'm very insecure. Before we get involved, I just want to let you know I'm very insecure. And I probably will watch you very closely and stalk you at times and look at your phone when you're not looking. I may even, if you give me the opportunity, check your bank account. They're not going to come. People don't come into relationships saying that. But what happens is their actions later on start to do this. And the thing, most people don't even recognize it until they're in a relationship like that.
Yeah.
Literally. One telltale sign. Check this out. First date. Person takes you out. And they're looking at you talking to the waiter. I mean, like, really looking at you.
Put more into it than it actually is.
Yeah.
Where people will accuse you, oh, you're awfully flirtatious,
Right. And some people are just those juvenile type of people that warm up to people very easily. Now,
what would you say about a person who intentionally, maybe their intention is to try to evoke some insecurity, where they are extremely flirtatious to waiters or just random people, but they're with someone, but they make a point to be extreme in their flirtations, almost as if saying, yeah, I'm going to flirt and you can't do anything about it, because you should be glad you're with me, because I'm this person everybody finds attractive. What would you say about that kind of a situation?
If it's at the beginning of things, and if you're with this person and they just can't respect you as that person of the moment, you're not asking them to stop their world for you, but for the moment,
and moment, you're supposed to be the person they're with.
Yeah, of the moment. Yes, of the moment. And where, okay, you're sitting there and this person is having a conversation with the waitress or waiter, and they're like, literally having a conversation, not talking about the food.
Yeah, almost like I'm seeing if I can, take you out later or something
You
like that.
know, wanting to get in your work. Well, how many children you have? Well, what, how long you been working here?
Yeah, where you live.
What else do you do besides this?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Now, see, no, now that's an issue. That's an issue because maybe you should. I mean, I'm not saying.
Get
I'm
up,
just
you
saying
sit
that's
down, and
just a
I'll
little
leave
bit
y'all
disrespectful right there.
there. Well, we got to take another break.
That's a sign that there's something going on with this person.
Something going on. Well, if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 when you're ready to speak. And if you're on our switchboard now and like to add to this conversation, press 1. We'll open your mic and get your thoughts. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, the Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green, we want you to write your comments in and we'll share them with our listening and viewing audience. And we'll be right back after this quick break. So we invite you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be right back after these brief messages. So stay with us.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, job, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head. No hype, just down to earth, solid, workable tools and techniques that you can practice daily. It's really food for the soul. Whether you want to learn how not to worry about anything, reverse type 2 diabetes, publish a book, promote your product or service, or just make extra money. To take advantage of the deal of the day, go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com.
All All right, welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and my co-host is Naima Latifa. All of the female solution. I'll see you. I'm just really messing up right now.
Yeah, we
I'll
got a
see-
call on the line.
Okay, absolutely. Let's take that so I can be quiet.
Alrighty. Area code 706. Your mic is open. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and your question or comment for Dr. Debbie Green. Go right ahead.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings to Dr. Debbie Green. And this is Kwame Sunhorse, and I'm sitting here in stolen land of Muskogee Creek in Edenton, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Interesting
Alaikum
topic.
salam.
And I keep reflecting on relationship, and relationships begin when a child comes out of the womb.
That's right.
Child comes out of the womb knowing love, and the exchange that it gets from the two parents or the mother, first of all, and even how she carried that child. That child automatically knows love. It's taught all the other things to go with that. And so that's part of how we're guided into this world, and being able to see the relationship between the person that you allowed you to grow within them and the relationship with the person that helped put you in there. And that interaction of male and female in that child's eyes shows it the types of people interact in relationship. Because it's the first part of the word relationship is real. What is real? Is that person being real to you and to themselves? Because if you haven't understood how to love yourself, how can you tell another human being that you love them and you don't love them? These are the parts of what we're looking at, because it's an inside job. You know, I can love you and there's nothing you can do about it. I choose my friends, even though they may be who they are. If you choose a person to be a friend, it's something within you that you see in them that you want to have that relationship for, be they good, bad, or indifferent. Right. It's choices that we make in how we love who we are and who gives us the power to be who we are, which is our Creator. It's the Creator first, it's you second, and everybody else you can choose from. But when we change that, that's part of the destruction that happens in our lives. And thank you for, this part of dealing with relationship.
Thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments.
Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your wisdom, because it's all above true. Because you're right. Relationship starts in the womb. It starts in the womb. The first relationship we have is with our mother, because that's the first attachment. That's all we know. And from that point on, when we come out into the world on earth, we start having relationships with everything else. It doesn't matter if it was a doll baby to relationships. It goes so deep. It's not just with the human parts, but it's also with ourselves. And I believe that we definitely lose pieces of ourselves from time to time as we go through so many traumatic episodes. So that is very true.
I have a question, and I'm sure you've probably seen some trends over the last maybe several decades. There are so many relationships that either are never fully formed or are broken very early after a child is born. And there are so many people who grew up seeing brokenness as the norm, where the mother and the father, like Baba Kwame described, the person who's responsible for you getting put in there inside your mother's womb. But those two people having a relationship that is either uncommitted or going back and forth. First we're together, then we're not together, and then we're together, and then we're not together. Very tentative kind of non-commitment commitments, the baby mama, baby daddy kind of thing, where the child grows up with the feeling that the other parent may not be a permanent fixture in their life because they weren't permanent when they were born. And so that seems to have created a an abnormal kind of normalcy where there's always fear of losing the parent because the two people have not totally committed to each other. And then there's the anger and the hostility that comes when one parent leaves and, attaches to some other person. So I see so many families now where that's the dynamic. The child grew up with maybe, father not there, maybe with someone else, maybe coming back and forth into their life. The mother angry because it's not the kind of relationship she wanted. And yet, they're not together. What emotional impact is that having? Now, I think the last statistics I read was something like 87% of children being raised in single parent, female headed households. And we know there's some single fathers as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when the abnorm has suddenly become the norm, and the relationship between the mother and the father is always tentative or even hostile because of all the issues surrounding the birth of the child that maybe neither one of them was emotionally prepared for. How is that affecting the children and their sense of security or even understanding of what love and security feels like?
Well, again, saying love starts at the most epitome of, again, with a mother rubbing her belly, as the baby is in the womb, right? So what is she
Mm-hmm.
doing? She's radiating love from the inside to this
Mm-hmm.
baby, despite actions from the outside or just with the hands, talking, soothing. Okay. So as that child is clearly feeling that love, clearly feeling that warmth, may not even be sure what it is, but it feels good. You know what I'm saying? So as that child comes out, and again, if this atmosphere is a healthy atmosphere, that's not full of turmoil or a lot of up and down turbulence, any abusiveness, then that child still radiates and understands that love component that's
Mm-hmm.
given. So it doesn't create the insecurity. Oh, I'm afraid of love. You know what I'm saying? I'm afraid of giving love. I'm afraid of receiving love. And it's they won't see it in that magnitude or won't feel it like that. So insecurities, Naima, are actually created when, again, a counterpart, far as a parent or whoever brought that child up, far as rearing is concerned, is not emotionally available. And
Mm.
you can cuddle a child too much as well, but then if you don't cuddle a child at all, then it doesn't know what love feels like. So it goes through life, wondering and trying to figure out what love is. And we call it
Yeah.
looking for love in all the wrong places. Also
Mm-hmm.
doing things for love for all the wrong reasons. You see what
Mm.
I'm saying? So
Yes.
it has to be, and we ask ourselves, okay, so what type of love is healthy love? It's unconditional. It comes
Mm.
with flexibility. It doesn't come with rigidity. It doesn't come with a constant demand, command. You have to do this and you have to do that. Because we were taught codependency so early in life.
Yeah.
Go to bed, wake up, do your homework, eat your meals, you know, clean up your space, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And when we went to school, it was the same thing. Do your homework, sit down, be quiet, pay attention. It didn't stop there. It went all the way from college. Do your courses. If you don't show up on time, you don't get a college degree. Then you get into the workplace. Do the work, show up time. If you don't get paid, you lose your job. So life is codependent, whether we
Mm.
realize it or not. So what
following.
happens into a relationship? What
Mm,
happens when we just have a normal relationship? We can make just well what we consider normal, because we may not even know what normalcy is anymore, because I don't think we do.
yeah,
I think we fell away from normalcy. What is normalcy anymore? I mean, we see relationships go from, oh, normal, oh, hello, how you doing? I love you. Let's get together. Let's raise a family. Till now, I want to kill you and everybody else. So, I mean, what is, we don't
yeah.
know what normalcy is,
Well, that's the
because it's
thing.
all fear based.
Fear.
That's what I'm saying. It's fear based. I'm afraid of loving you, but I'm also afraid of losing you. And
Well,
I'm
that's
afraid of losing you, but I'm also afraid of loving you. So what's really going on?
well, that's what I'm seeing as perhaps what the root of that fear-based relationship trend is. And Beata says dysfunctional families have existed from the beginning of time. Elders and grandparents can bring the healing energy if they're healthy and conscious. Well, that's the thing.
Right.
If you
If
have a
you got to say that word,
generation of grandparents that are dysfunctional, then what they've done is pass on the dysfunction for the next two generations. Because that's what I'm seeing. I
right,
think, you know, what you were about to say. Go right ahead.
but just because they're passing on, that don't mean that you have to adapt to it. See, this is the thing. Most people don't know dysfunction or recognize this dysfunction because they become it. They become the very thing that they don't want. In the relationships as they grew up, if they grew up around dysfunction, and if they're not careful to be mindful of their own actions, they become the dysfunction. So now they become the issue of the problem they've always had.
Mm.
And
So
then they want to try to get rid of it. How can you remove, get rid of, exterminate, or whatever word you want to call it, a dysfunction when you are the dysfunction yourself?
you are the dysfunction. Well, that's the challenge that we have because we've had several generations of dysfunction, and I think it's always existed in some form, and every generation really has to try to correct the dysfunction of the past. But we have to have an image of what a healthy relationship looks like. There has to be something that gives us a picture of what it looks like, gives us an image of what it feels like. It seems like maybe, and I don't want to romanticize the good old days because I don't know if there's ever been any, have we ever had any good old days? Maybe for some
If they
families.
are, it must have been 50 years ago.
Well, it seems like 50 years ago was when the problem started. That was the drug culture. And when you are taking substances that make you not in your right mind, then you do things that show you're not in your right mind. So
Yeah.
maybe a generation of, you had the free love era where you had babies born to parents that love was free, but now we know the life cost and we ain't ready to be parents. So what are we going to do now? I mean, I think that something broke several generations ago and we haven't been able to fix it. But then the world has changed, so we can't go back to the way people operated in the 50s because a lot of those are the kinds of relationships we just got through talking about, the power control dynamic where there was not equal love, equal respect. There was control and domination and compliance. So we don't want to go back to that. We actually have to create something that maybe has not existed in our lifetime.
Right.
And that
I
means we
agree.
have to develop what that looks like and what that feels like. Because trying to recreate something that was dysfunctional in its own way is not the answer to the particular kind of dysfunction that we have now.
That's true. That's true. So how do we, okay, let's look at this from this platform. How do we repair? You see what I'm saying? How can we as a individual first?
How you
You see what
repair.
I'm saying? Because first we got to look at ourselves and examine ourselves to find out, okay, Is there any dysfunction in me? No, I'm not perfect, but I'm just saying we don't look at it from a perfected point. We look at, is there any dysfunctions inside of me before I look at it inside of someone else?
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So most people don't do that because they always looking outside themselves. They don't look inside. It's a common
Right.
factor, right? So when they see dysfunction on the outside, they're either going to do one or two things. They're going to respond to it with ignorance, or they're going to respond to it in love.
Hmm. Well, I think the
And
first.
that's, you know what I mean by ignorance? Like, oh, what's wrong with you? You got this, blah blah blah. They know it's like they see it and they automatically think that it's this negative thing. Instead of trying to figure out what it is, they label it and they stereotype. This stereotypical.
Well, I think that's what we learn how to do in every phase of our lives. Criticism
Okay.
as opposed to healing. I mean, look at our whole system of addressing someone's misbehavior. The first thing you do is cause them more pain. You punish them with public humiliation, arrest, jailings, fines, instead of figuring out, well, what was it that malfunctioned in you that made you do something harmful to yourself or someone else? So even the way we believe we should respond to someone else who is perhaps acting in a way that is hurtful to their immediate society, that in itself is dysfunctional, which creates more dysfunction. It's just like if your child perhaps in exploring, an expensive ornament, they accidentally drop it and break it. Well, they were a child, number one, didn't always have the hand dexterity. And number two, they were exploring, they were trying to learn.
Hmm.
And number three, they don't know anything about how much you spent for this. They don't have any concept of that. But if you grab them and start spanking them, then you've created dysfunction right there, because now they have to fear that whatever they do, whatever they explore, any mistake they make, they're going to receive pain. And that way of thinking that we have, labeling something bad, labeling behavior bad when the intention was not to hurt, the intention was to learn. We created the dysfunction in the child by our dysfunctional parenting and our thoughts, our projection of wrong intent on someone who didn't have wrong intent. So we create the dysfunction in the human being early in their development because of the wrong way that we think. And I'm thinking that we're going to create something different in the way people relate in relationships. We have to change our thoughts about ourselves and others. The whole
Right.
foundation of how we see ourselves as wrong, bad, inadequate. At the very core of what we're taught to think about ourselves is a dysfunction that we have put in motion, that we have to change. Because we're thinking it's normal to be hard on yourself, be down on yourself, to think that you're unworthy of love. We think that's
Right.
normal because that's the signal that we got from our parents. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of erasing to do, just in terms
Well,
of
that's
have been believing is correct all these years and all these generations. And it's self-hating. And then
it's
self-hate translates to hate to other people. So
it's
how can
all fear. It's all fear, Naima.
we based
Yeah,
fear?
everything you just said is fear-based thinking. Every
Yes,
word. And fear is, most people think fear is like, oh, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. No, it's so deep. The fear
designed to avoid pain.
is so deep. It's a lot of mental and emotional pain that has not been settled, a lot of different circumstances that have not been finalized. It's a lot of suppressed emotions that turned out in different actions, different behaviors, because no one wants to look inside and examine and heal. They just want to live a life that they don't. Half of the time, people don't even know that they are fear based thinkers. They have no idea because they've been in it so long. I had a patient one time told me, I've never been happy. I don't know what that feels like.
Wow.
All my life since I've been a child, I've always been, I never felt good enough. I never felt loved. I mean, for a person to say never felt that, even if they did, they don't even know what it is. So I don't believe there's a never in it. It's just that if you don't know what it feels like to feel freedom and love, then you can't identify with it.
Yeah. You can't
You
recreate
can't.
something you don't know.
No, you can't. You can't identify. You can't. Identify with something that you never been exposed to. So
Right.
now your sense of looking or applying love is like altered. It's altered. It's just altered. It's altered. Then you have some people. It's love me, 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 me. Okay, it's about me. It's not about you. It's about me. It's about what I want, about what I feel, and what I need. You
Right.
know, and so that keeps me it keeps me protecting myself so that I don't feel, that I don't feel. Period.
Right. So it's really two sides of the same coin. It's both
Yes.
fear based. Now I'd like to throw out this thought before we go to a break, uh, to consider. At the core of what we believe about ourselves is what we believe and perhaps have been taught about the supreme being, the creator,
Yes.
energy that has given all of us life.
Hmm.
If we are believing that the creator who created us doesn't really like us, or we're not worthy of love, or we're defective, if that's a core belief, then everything that we do stems out of that core belief. And what if that core belief is incorrect?
Mm.
What if what we are believing and teaching ourselves and others about our creator is the cause of the repetition of this dysfunction? And if we understood that the creator is only love and total acceptance of who we are and what we are as we're growing and striving to learn, and that there is no punishment for learning, even if you make a mistake, just as the child who drops the expensive ornament, but there is no giving of pain for that because it's understood that you did it in ignorance.
Right.
You would not have fear because one who loves you
Hmm.
doesn't cause you pain because they accept you for where you are in your development. If we understood that, then couldn't we begin to create relationships based on that principle of unconditional love?
Good. That's a big what if, but yes. That's in the beautiful, peaceful world that we would want one day. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So
One
our
day.
challenge is to create that or set the foundation for that today so that that one day can become a day that we can see in our lifetime. So that
Yes.
is changing the foundation of what we teach our children and how we raise them and what we expose them to so that they can experience what unconditional love feels like.
Hmm. So if we have unconditional love for ourselves, then it's easy for us to have it with someone else. That's the problem. We don't have unconditional love for ourselves because we're looking at ourselves. Oh, I'm not. I should have done this. I should have done that. I wish I was this. I wish I was that. And we're so critical of this image of God.
Yes, absolutely. We
Thank
got
you
to
that
take
we
our
get to do
last.
this.
Yes.
Right. Yeah,
So
we're
we'll
so
explore that,
critical.
and how do we do that? How do we fix the damaged self-image that we have that allows us to end up in the dysfunctional relationships that are fear-based? How do we repair the damage? How do we heal? We'll talk about that. And of course, if you're on our switchboard and have a thought, press 1. If you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, Soulful Solutions, we've also shared it with Female Solution Facebook page. And of course, whatever you're watching, write your comments and we'll pull them up on screen and share them with our listening and viewing audience. And we will be right back after this.
Absolutely.
So we want you all to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment, so stay with us.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on the Media Connection at www.youtube.com/TheMediaConnectionTV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their story to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on cable TV channel 19 in Chicago and other cities. Check your local cable listings.
Wrong, Deborah.
Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solution Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak. And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, here on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show for the neighborship of joy. We will have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. So see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy.
All right. We're at the top of our hour. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green with my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. See, I got it right that time.
Yes.
Awesome. And if you're just joining us.
Yeah, I believe Tommy has another comment.
Oh, does another comment?
Our
okay.
listeners.
All right. No problem. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, let me let you finish your thought because you were updating those who may have just joined us.
Yes, I was saying if they're just joining us, we're talking about, are you living in a fear-based relationship, signs of insecurity, and those things and those outcomes that surround that. Okay, we can take his call. Go ahead.
All righty. And Baba Kwame, your mic is open. Go right ahead to your comments.
Yes, and I was referring to your book, Psychic Trauma.
Yeah.
And you have in 213 2:14, you talk about the black family and the media, how it was portrayed to us. But we have to even go back further, because when the emancipation came about, we were not allowed to be family. We were property. And we saw a surge of looking for our family, our wives, our children. And we brought them together after we were emancipated. And how after just, 200 years almost, that we look back and we were looking at, I heard you talking about, grandmothers 50 years ago. We have to go back 150 years ago. And the structure of family base was more powerful than it is today. We had less and did more in unifying as family and as a people than we do now, as we feel that we're free and we have, but we're distant. Yeah. We're no longer community. We're more so hoods, and we have this thing about unifying and division. We've taken on a whole different psyche, and we're creating our own psychic trauma that came about from our oppressors. We're doing what they did in having us in captivity. We're looking at a way in which we're kind of doing this again to ourselves in some communities and some parts of our race. So we've got to look at where did we come from to know where we should be going. And a lot of that is not being given, because grandma's lap time was very powerful. Kitchen table university was very powerful. Father and son relationship in the field was very powerful. That is almost extinct now.
That's true. Yeah.
So we have to find a way to take the good from those days and reproduce that, and let go of the non-good that was traumatic. We remember those days. And, I even hear this today when people will talk about, back in the day, the whippings they got and all of that. Well, okay, we understand that it's necessary to raise up a child and teach them conformity to the rules of a society so that they're not harming people. But that violence of beating was a repetition of the trauma of the slave culture. As you said, brought to us by those who were holding us in captivity and replicating a behavior that they brought with them out of Europe, which was also very cruel to children and the poor. So you have dysfunctional behavior in cultures, and when we imitate behavior that's dysfunction, then the dysfunction gets mixed in with the good things, like you mentioned, being on your grandma's lap, having all these aunties, having everybody in your community look after you and reprimand you if you were out of order. All of those things that were healthy, we need to grasp and reproduce. But the things that were unhealthy, we need to discard and not repeat. So we have to examine what things were healthy, what things helped build healthy self-esteem, what things were supportive and built strong relationships of trust and camaraderie and interaction, and what things were abusive and caused us to fear loving someone, fear the person you're supposed to trust with raising you and guiding you. What things were hurtful that we should not repeat, so that we can have healthy relationships based on unconditional love and not fear of loss or fear of pain.
Yeah, I think he had a comment.
Yeah.
I think he had a comment. Why?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and what we're looking at, and that's an excellent point. Those things, saying Kofa, go back and fetch that which is good and bring it forward. We once upon a time bought land, built our homes, had our mothers and our uncles and our aunties live on the same piece of land. I have a story I always talk about. My grandmother and my great auntie owned the land, and when the city was developing, they turned around and sold the land to the city developers. My cousin lived in the projects that they built on my grandmother's land.
Wow.
Now, how is that we have that far gone, that they own the land that they've developed, bought, they sold it to the city developed projects and put it on. Now my cousin and her children live in that project.
Instead of them live, well, I mean, which wouldn't be a bad thing if the projects didn't have the connotation that they have of someone else controlling your life and keeping you at a certain income level that maintains poverty, instead of it being family owned land where the family's taking care of you and there's not the stigma of, you know, you can't take care of yourself, so you're on public housing. You know, we have to, again, look at what are we creating?
Relationships. We go back to relationships either way.
Yes.
Either way.
How do we fix the
relationships?
Yes.
It goes from the family, it goes from generations, ancestors, to the current modern family, down to the descendants. So what the question is, you know, no one's examining, no one's, you know, they can label bad and good, but at the same token, you know, are you filtering?
Yeah.
Are you filtering the stuff that you no longer need? Are you filtering the stuff that's not mentally healthy for you, as well as not emotionally healthy for you?
Yes.
You know, and then after you filter, are you applying? Are you applying those things that are working?
Right.
You know, and do you know the difference?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference between dysfunctional and functional? Because some people do not.
They don't.
Because they've been brought up in a dysfunctional relationship so long, till that's all they know and that's all they are. And when you try to help them identify what is healthy and what is not healthy, you have to literally tell them, I'm so sorry, that is not an option. You know, and they're like, well, why? That's all I know. This is all I've been. I don't know anything else. I said, well, you might have been living 50, 20, 30, whatever years in dysfunctions. Totally. And it's based upon non-knowledge. It's based upon no self-awareness, no self-discipline, you know, saying no self-love, because anything that loves itself won't harm itself in any way. In any way. But if you don't have an identity, your identity is already, it was produced out of love. And I'm not talking about your mother and father. I'm talking about the creator. He produced it out of love. And when it came to the earth, that's when things started to get distorted, because man's love is totally different from God's love. And then we go back to our roots. What's our roots? It's not our ancestors all the time. It is the roots that we were created for in the first place, to give and receive love in balance with limits and boundaries.
Right.
Because even love has a boundary. You see what I'm saying?
Did I share something that in your book, and it's in page 253, it says, modern marriage, why they're not working. And you put on the page, it says, first paragraph, it says, issues such as character, personality, values, or family upbringing are seldom considered. As a result, two people find themselves immediately involved, yet totally incompatible. In order to create lasting marital relationship, African Americans must study the positive attitudes and behavior which strengthen families before slavery destroys African culture.
Absolutely.
That's on page 253 in the Psychic Trauma.
Yeah, and this is the book, of course, available. You can go to Amazon, but they're charging kind of high. So to get the normal price, you can go to my website, www.naimalatif.com. That's NAIMAHLATIF.com. And and we're also producing the audio and digital version of the book as well. You know, it came out in 1994, which at that time, a lot of things were happening. I think Nelson Mandela was just getting out of prison. and I think who was president then? I think Bill Clinton might have been president. No, Reverend Jackson had run for president.
Okay, I have.
So
yes, I have a Facebook. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know how long he's going to be on here. It's a person on Facebook. And I hope I'm not. It said Dalamain Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Dalamain. Am I saying that correctly? They want to know how to get a copy of the book. So can you say that again, please?
You can order from my website. That's www.naimalatif.com. Now, if you're watching, the way the name is spelled right on the screen, Naim as in Mary, AH, Latif, L as in Larry, AT as in Tom, IF as in Frank.com. The reason why I said don't go to Amazon, what happened after my husband passed away, who's co-author, somehow they put the thought out there, oh, the author's passed away, so only got these limited copies. So they were selling them like for $200. And it's actually
Wow.
$20 on the website. So, the book stays sold out because it basically, I think in the beginning, we kind of were forerunners of addressing the ongoing trauma that came from slavery.
Mhm.
And we keep passing it down. So the book actually addresses ways to undo the trauma so we don't pass it down to the next generation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have been doing that because, like you're saying, if you don't have self-love, then you can't love anyone else. And if we participated in a system of degrading ourselves and staying in an abusive relationship, which is what we had with those who were in the position of owning people, then we keep producing that and we keep creating relationships that are based on that. So
Correct.
out of a system where people could beat you and literally kill you at will. And that's how we learned how to raise our children, beating the spirit out of them, beat them into submission so that they never would assert themselves. We learned that behavior and we made it be normal, and it's not normal. It's very unloving. And if we know that the creator is a loving creator, created us with love for love, then we don't justify mistreating others. But if we're believing that, well, God hates us, we were cursed, we're supposed to suffer. If we're believing that, then we're justifying accepting abuse. And that's what our relationships are reflecting, a mistaken belief about our creator and ourselves. So we're going to heal from that. And to first heal the misbelief, the mistaken belief about ourselves as being defective and being worthy of abuse. And it's not just a color thing, because any society that has a wrong belief about their origins of existence, as you said, we don't come from our ancestors, we come from the creator. And if we have a mistake about that and what that means, then everything we create in our society is going to be based on that distortion. And that's what we have. So if we're going to create loving relationships, we have to know that love is unconditional. It isn't where I can treat you badly if you don't do what I want you to do. That's not love. Right. I can treat you badly if you don't look in a way that I find visually pleasing. That's not love. So all of these things that we're creating in our society reinforces fear, because there's always a condition. I'll treat you well unless you do this, and then I'll cause you pain. So that's why we have fear-based relationships. And if we're going to change that, we have to change the foundation of what we believe about who we are as expressions of a creator, which is
true. Love. Yes, absolutely. That is so profound and wonderfully said. The thing about this is no one is our property. That's what we have to understand. No one is our property. It doesn't matter what relationship, whether we're married, in a relationship of convenience, lover, friend, companion, wherever you place that person in your life, but they're not your property. So therefore, they can, we can't think that this human being that was created by God must do what we want them to do when we want them to do it at the time that we want them to do it. It's not feasible because every human being has their own choice pattern. Now, however, some people will comply. Okay, some people will surrender. Some people will even submit to another person's needs, wants, or desires. But that still doesn't give the person that's asking of that the right to say, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that," and you because if you love me, this is what you do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this if you love me, if you love me, this is what I think you need to do. So love becomes no longer a unconditional thing that God's created. It became something of what they call what convenience.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? A regulatory of law. You know, even competition, even
Mm-hmm.
competing. You know what I'm saying? Accommodating, compromise. You know, all of these things that is man's way of love. If we love unconditionally, if that person decides to do something totally different with their lives, then we will not look at them as this horrible person. We may say, okay, well, I love you enough to let you go if this is what you want to do. I'm not going to think that your actions, your behaviors, your words will damage me in any way because if I think they're damaging, I need to not so much look at your actions. I need to look at what do I perceive of you or why do I feel victimized in what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? Then if it's not this person, then it may be another person that you may look at it the same way, and another person, and another person. So now you can't blame the world. You can only blame yourself because you are the victim of
Right.
what circumstance? Of the circumstance that you created. Because we can blame, you, like I said, people shift that blame. They'll point at everything. You don't love me because of what? Because of what? No, first of all, am I deserving of the love that I give myself, or am I deserving of the love that I give you? Where's the value in it all? You see what I'm saying? Where is the value of it all? And you know, we can learn a lot, and I'm gonna hit this biblical part because we can learn a lot about God's love. The agape love clearly says, and he said, I gave my only begotten son so that you would have eternal life. And when and this that piece there, but then it goes way beyond that because I want to come out of the religious sector. I want to know that I want people to understand love is unconditional. When you don't put these rules and regulations on love, then your life will be so much better because you're not going to get too close to anybody.
Mm.
You and then if they leave you or if they do anything that you think, oh, you don't love me. Wait a minute, I love you even in your bad, your good, or your indifferent. I'm just gonna love you, and I'm not gonna take any pain from your actions. I'm not gonna allow that whatever you're doing to cause pain in me.
Yes. We
You know
should
what I'm
understand
saying?
that love does not hurt. If you're in pain, it's not love.
Could I,
No.
Yes.
Naima,
Yes, sir.
your dedication and Tio,
Is
is that how you pronounce
is
it?
it Tankio?
Thankio.
Ah,
And I'd just like to share with Thankio is an acronym. What to use? He says tribute to our ancestors, our native land, and the kingdoms and the empires from which we originated.
yes.
And that's our foundation of how we know who we are in order to know how we love that which we are.
Yes. And, you know, that's also the name of my husband's grandfather. And I also mentioned one of my grandfathers. He had a grandfather, Luther Tankio Anderson, and I had a grandfather, Sip Charles. And these were the patriarchs back in our families that were the first independent Black men after the enslavement experience. And they were very defiantly independent men, and they had that spirit of independence and self-sufficiency, which set things in motion for our families. They, you know, acquired land, they raised their families, and they were strong men in spite of the intimidation that came at that period of time and trying to repress um, African American men and force them back into a position of compliance and servitude. So we
Okay.
want to give tribute to that, and I think that's important for our uh, our families to have a beginning where we're going to decide our family is going to change the pattern starting with me. And I think that's the pledge, that's the promise that we need to make, even when it comes to the dysfunctional relationships. Where am I in my relationship? What am I showing my children? How can I change the pattern that has been passed down so that from this point on we can create
Yes.
a culture of love of self, love of our partners, our spouses, our children, loving each
Right.
other.
Right. I
And
want to address this because I know I don't have a lot of time. Excuse me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
oh no, yeah,
I
you got
really,
the last word. You only have a few minutes.
yeah, just okay. Vienna Robinson on our Facebook page, she said, I told my grandson he hurt me when he talked back and was disrespectful. He watched a doc on prison life. When I informed him, I will ask him to apologize when he causes pain. If he doesn't, I will give the pain back by pinching him. So far, he has been very loving, teaching consequences. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me understand you correctly. In order for you to, this is what you decided. In order for you to let him know or help him to understand mental or emotional pain, you then inflicted physical pain to alert him.
Now that's a teaching mechanism. Well,
Now, the question is this, though: what signals are you sending? And I'm not saying it's a right or wrong. I just want you to think about this, okay? What signals are you saying, right? So when he says verbal, if he says something verbally to you, or not, because guess what? This is going to travel in him, just so you know it, right? Which means mentally and emotionally, he's going to apply this to his other areas of his life. When he says something verbally, when he says something verbally that is disrespectful, that he may or may not know that's disrespectful to another human being other than you see what I'm saying? Then he's going to expect pain in return.
or he may choose to give pain if someone speaks disrespectfully to
He's
him.
going to either give it or he's going to expect it. So when you do this, if you do this on a repetition, like if every time he says this, you know what I'm saying, you pinch him to let him know there's a consequence by it, he's going to say, okay, when I say something that I may or may not know is disrespectful, so pain is given to me in some type of way. So as he gets older, as being an adolescent, because I don't know how old he is, he's probably under the age of
I
12,
think
that's a good
he's under 12.
chance.
I think what
You
he's
see what I'm
six.
saying?
Yeah.
So as he gets older into his adolescence years, if he is saying something freely that he feels that he needs to say, which is freely, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, you see what I'm saying? He's going to expect to either receive pain or give pain. That's what you said. That's the signal you're sending. So let me help you do something a little bit different. Okay. When he says those things that you think are disrespectful, what you need to do is repeat those things back to him. And you ask him, okay, what good is this doing? Ask him what does he mean by this? Yes, he's becoming more conscious about the consequences and learning how to love others. Yes, but he still needs to understand his words and his actions and what type of impact it has on another human being. Not just the consequence, but the words.
Seconds.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, teach him empathy rather than fear of pain of consequences. I mean,
Yeah, because he's gonna, yeah, it's gonna grow up in him to
yeah,
think that, oh, it's all right, let me give pain because I know somebody's gonna give pain back to me, but I need to choose my words more carefully so I don't cause pain at all.
yes. Well, I know the
It's,
challenge of trying to teach
it,
deeper principles. It's very challenging, but there is a technique, and I know we're out of time. But
yeah,
this is probably a whole show in itself. how
Of
to
course it is.
empathy as opposed to fear of pain. That in itself is a whole show, because it's a whole different way of thinking, again, that we have to create
Yes.
if we want to create a different society. So we have to learn the techniques of teaching with
Well,
love.
we'll maybe have a part 2 to this next week.
Yeah.
Teaching with love. Yes, teaching with love, and also allowing self-discipline and self-compassion to be a huge part of that. Thank you, Facebook, for joining us. Everybody that was on today, thank you so much. Thank you, YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel and give us a comment if there's something that you want to hear us to talk about or whatever. I am open as always. Love, love, love you. Thank you, Naima, as always.
And for anybody who's on our switchboard, if you didn't get a chance to speak, well, of course, come on back tomorrow. We'll be here live with Viata, and you can see her on her Soulful Solutions Facebook page. And of course, join in on Blog Talk Radio, www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. So you can add your comments to tomorrow's show, and we'll see you then.
Absolutely. Okay. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
On behalf of our team.